Hi and welcome to today's recorded video for Mental Health Month. Today's video will be hosted by Youth Engagement Officers from Blacktown Area Community Centres, BAC, Nathan Waters and Tanae Anderson. This video will be run by facilitators asking a number of questions to our three panellists. Before we introduce the panellists, we will start with an acknowledgement of country. Blacktown Area Community Centres Inc. BAC acknowledges the traditional owners of the land in which we work, the Darug people. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and future. We acknowledge our gratitude that we share this land today, our sorrow for some of the cost of that sharing and our hope and belief that we can move to a place of equity, justice and partnership together. Now I'll hand over to Ruth, and Ruth will be telling us about Mental Health Month.
Excellent. Thanks, Nathan. So my name's Ruth. I work in community development at Headspace Mount Druitt, and October is Mental Health Month. So Mental Health Month happens every year. It happens worldwide, and it is an awareness month for mental health and mental ill health. So the aim of the month is to start conversations around mental health, to decrease stigma towards those who might experience mental illness or mental ill health, and for those people getting involved to start conversations with those around them. It goes for the whole of October, but October 10th is World Mental Health Day. So you see lots of promotion happening around that. There's lots of ways you can get involved. Obviously, you're watching this video, which is an awesome start. But keep an eye out on your schools, Instagram or Facebook or community groups around you for any events or information that they're putting out there for you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I'm going to introduce our three panelists now. So panelist number one is Leah Simic.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Leah and I'm from Headspace Youth Advisory Committee for both Penrith and Mount Druitt site.
Kurt is the second panelist.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Kurt. I'm a youth access team clinician at Headspace Mount Druitt, and I work closely with young people to achieve their goals around mental health.
So our third panelist is Beck Elliott.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Beck and I'm a functional recovery team clinician with the Headspace Early Psychosis program across Western Sydney. So that's in Mount Druitt, Penrith and the Parramatta areas.
Thank you. We're going to get started and jump straight into the questions. Nathan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, thank you and welcome to all our panellists. Leah, the first question is directed to you. What are three tips on how to look after your mental health while learning from home?
I actually saw this question and it took me a little bit to think about it, surprisingly. I think the first thing for me would definitely be acknowledging that the time we're in is really difficult, and just doing the minimum task, like giving yourself a little clap on the back for that one, because I know for me, there's a lot of pressure at the start to try and keep up with all the routines that I used to keep up with, and that's just not possible in a time like this. So something like getting out of bed and just brushing your teeth, like giving yourself a pat on the shoulder for that is really important. The second one, I think for me, I'm doing kind of all from personal experience, but reaching out for help. I think we all kind of just put in this idea, oh yeah, we'll get through it and whatnot. But for me, in order to kind of continue doing with the routines I used to, I have to reach out for help. Whether that's a school counsellor, teachers, or my own therapist and things like that. It's really important how you're going to sustain a time like this if you're not talking about all those feelings when you're super isolated. And then my last tip would probably be doing the things you love. I think we've all kind of lost reality and haven't really done the things we love as much as we used to. And by going back to trying to do those things, for me, it's journaling or playing my guitar, it feels like I'm a bit back in control of my own life, and that I'm able to grasp reality, things haven't completely gone down the hole. Yeah, so those would probably be my three tips. Acknowledge that you're in the situation, reach out for help, and try to go back to doing the things that you used to love at least.
Thank you for those three tips.
Thank you for that. Kurt, the second question is for you. What are you noticing is particularly tough for young people in this lockdown?
Yeah, so there's obviously a few things that are tough, and different people experience this lockdown differently. But one thing I've definitely noticed across the board is struggling to find motivation, and that's motivation for schoolwork, for work, but also just to do kind of normal things. It's a lot easier to sleep in and kind of start your day tired and not be as motivated to kind of get to tasks throughout the day. So I'm definitely finding across the board, a lot of young people are just struggling with that motivation to do things that they need to, one, but also things that they enjoy. That's definitely been a big thing. And a lot of boredom as well. That kind of being stuck inside, not being able to get out of the house outside for maybe a walk. That's not much fun for young people, because when you're young, you want to be out with your friends, you want to be going to the shops, to the movies, all those different things. And not being able to do that is definitely having an impact on everyone, because some people enjoy being inside, but a lot of people prefer being out there, being social. That's a big thing as well. Try kind of keeping that social interaction. It's not as easy when you're not in person with people. And I've found a lot of young people I've chatted to have kind of struggled with that social element as well when you're not face to face.
So our next question is for Beck. Beck, what is Headspace and what can it provide young people?
Yeah, so Headspace is a national youth mental health organisation that supports young people from age 12 to 25 and is really there to support people with their mental health and what they're struggling with. So there's a couple of different areas of Headspace. There's the Headspace primary care team, and that's a team that really supports young people who are maybe having their first experiences struggling with mental health. It's people who might be having feelings of anxiety for the first time, or feeling really low and looking for somebody to talk to introduce them to ways to manage that. And so that program is really quite good for people who are struggling, and it's also free, which is awesome. So you can access free mental health care if you're within that age range. And then there's also the Headspace Early Psychosis program, which is the program that I'm working in at the moment. And we're supporting people who are at risk of developing or have experienced a first episode of psychosis, which can be really scary, especially for young people who might not have much experience with psychosis. And through that program, we're providing people with support throughout that recovery journey. And it can be from 12 months to 5 years of support, both medically, psychologically, and socially. So really just trying to provide some really good quality, free mental health care for young people.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And during this difficult time, how can young people access Headspace?
So Headspace, there's a lot of different ways that you can access Headspace. I think maybe the easiest way is to just call up. There's a few different phone numbers you can find on the website if you're in the area. The Mount Druitt team is great. As we know, Kurt's there as well. Might be the one picking up your phone call, but it's just a good way you can just call up and there'll be somebody there to talk to you. There'll be somebody who can talk you through what's going on and set you up to maybe link in with somebody, provide some options for services, or even just to chat you through a hard day. And so that's one way to go. You can also go to your GP and they can make a referral for you. Your family and friends can call up. Your school counsellor can call up. So any way you can think of, whether it's doing it yourself or it's getting somebody to help you, it's quite easy to do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. Leah, this one's for you. What are you noticing is particularly tough for young people in this lockdown?
Yeah, so I think within this lockdown especially, I think this mentality of we're all in this together is actually causing more detriment to young people than helping us. I think by saying that we're all in this together, a lot of young people feel minimized in their own emotions or how they're feeling towards something because it's supposedly normal, which it is, but then it also makes young people feel like they're not able to reach out, that they feel silly almost for doing so because, well, we're all in this together, so why should I be the one reaching out for help when everyone is feeling this? And I think that's creating more issues than actually helping us because we're all in different situations, whether that be living, family, social lives, etc. everyone's coping with it differently. We're all in this together in the sense that we're all experiencing the new Delta strain and COVID, but we're not all in this together when it comes to our mental health, and everyone experiences differently. So yeah, I think that's creating more issues rather than helping us in a time like this.
Thank you.
And Kurt, I'd like to hear your opinion as well. What are your thoughts on this impacting young people reaching out for support? Is this something you're also hearing from young people?
Yeah, absolutely. We found last year, and it's been kind of repeated this year, that actually during the lockdown, we have a quieter period. So less referrals coming too. And obviously there can be a few reasons for that. One is kind of sometimes staying at home is great to start with and just enjoying that, but then it wears on a little bit. But yeah, also, as Leah mentioned, that kind of that feeling of my problems aren't as important as someone else, or someone's always got it worse. That mentality can really restrict people from reaching out, when my message for that would be what you're experiencing is just as important as what the person next to you is experiencing. But it is hard to believe that. And it is, I do always say as well, with any young person I talk to, the hardest step is that first step, is that calling up, is that even walking into our service. That's the hardest step to take. And that definitely prevents some people from reaching out for assistance. But I can tell from experience and from chatting to people, to plenty of young people in this role, once they've made that step, things are not as bad after it. I'm not going to necessarily say they get easier straight away, but they're not as hard as that first step. So I definitely think that holds people back. But once they've taken that step, you can almost see the weight lifted off their shoulders.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Beck, this one's for you. What are some self-care / coping strategies that are a bit out of the box, not just the run-of-the-mill self-care tips we always hear?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I think self-care has become such a term that people are using all the time, and maybe without realizing quite what it means. And I think sometimes we talk about self-care with people and they feel like it's just face masks and massages and burning a nice candle. But what self-care is really about is how can you prioritize your well-being, whether that's for an hour a week, 5 minutes a day. How can you prioritize your well-being to help you get through what we're all going through right now and all the unique things that, everybody's experiencing throughout this time? And so that could be anything. It could be something like, for example, today with one of my young people, we decided to paint rocks and paint nice little messages on those rocks to go out and leave on our walking path. And whilst that's caring for somebody else, the feeling of contributing to our community was a really nice example of self-care. And it could be something like, self-care might not be going to the gym, which I suppose we can't do anyway, but it might not be going for a run. It might be taking 5 minutes at the end of the day to take a breather, to sit outside for a little bit. It might be really taking the time to notice that first cup of coffee that makes you feel really good. It's about using activities that you find joy in to recharge yourself and to make yourself feel validated in your own emotions and how you're feeling, and giving yourself the space to feel that, so that when it comes to the next day and you've got to get up and do that Google Classroom, lesson again, you feel recharged. You feel like you've given yourself the space to do that. So self-care is really about getting creative, figuring out what little things bring you joy, and finding ways to implement that into your weekly or daily routine.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And Leah, during this difficult time, who can young people reach out to for help when they're struggling with their schoolwork?
I think the obvious one people say is like your teachers, reach out to your teachers, but sometimes that can be more difficult. And if you're already falling behind, you feel like there's almost this tension of, I need to catch up, but I don't want to ask on the work before because I don't want to get in trouble about it. So I definitely sometimes think about the things that you wouldn't usually think of. So sometimes your parents, your next door neighbour. I've found some really great help in asking people who have graduated already, the year above me, even sometimes asking the years years below. I am no math whiz, I'll tell you that. So sometimes if I have a math problem I'm stuck with, I'll ask someone from the year below who's doing a higher level of math that I could ever do. So little things like that, even like if you're reaching out to someone for help, see if they know the answer to it. I know there have been plenty of times where when I was reaching out for help, I was like, I'm stuck on this question. Can you help me out? And they've been able to. So yeah, like online, in person with your friends and things like that. So just look at who's around you and really work with your devices with what you can grab, because we're all different and we've all got different situations. So look at who's around you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Kurt, what supports are available for young people to engage with in lockdown, including online?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question because we ask it in terms of in lockdown, but the answer is the first answer that comes to my mind is the supports we always have there. So I'm talking about friends and family. So they're always the ones you're closest to, the ones that you're always around. It can be difficult speaking to them, absolutely, but they're always number one, kind of always there. And I'd encourage anyone when they can just to reach out to them, just to reach out, send a message to a friend, say, hey, can we have a chat? I'm just not feeling great. Or go out into the kitchen to mum or dad and just say, I'm feeling a bit off today, if you're comfortable to do that. So they're always the first people I would recommend. But in terms of other kind of services, especially online, I'd recommend things like eHeadspace. There's also Lifeline, Kids Helpline, Beyond Blue. They're just a few off the top of my head. You can type them in on Google, their website can come up. A lot of them have kind of phone lines you can call, but something that's great that they have these days as well is a chat function. So you can just chat to them online as if you were chatting to a friend, because sometimes it can be a little bit easier chatting to someone that doesn't know you, doesn't know necessarily everything that's been happening. So there's always kind of supports online around those services. They would be the ones off the top of my head that I would recommend. But again, first and foremost, look, like Leah said, look around who you've got around you in that moment and kind of see if you feel comfortable to reach out to them, because you never know, they might be going through the same thing and they might need someone to chat to as well. So it could be beneficial for both of you.
That's so true. Thank you.
And Beck, I'm spending extra time with my family at the moment. How do I speak with them about my mental health?
It's a really tough one. And I think going back to some of the things we've talked about before, it can be so hard to talk to other people about how you're feeling when you know that other people are struggling as well. And so we might notice that our families are going through struggles. Maybe they haven't been able to work or they're struggling in their own way. But what I think is really beautiful is that it can be so reciprocal. It can be reciprocal, and you can go and talk to somebody about how you feel. And once you've got that off your chest, maybe they can share how they feel as well. I find that when you're talking to family, it's different for everybody. Everybody's relationship with their family is really, really different, and it can be really hard. But I think something that can be quite helpful is figuring out what it is that you want from that conversation. And I think sometimes the difficulty comes when you just want to vent and then they want to try and solve your problems, or you want them to help you solve your problems and they're saying, yeah, wow, that really sucks. And so figuring out what it is that you want from that conversation can be a really good starting point to figure out what you want to say. And so if you're wanting support or you're wanting somebody to listen to you, maybe that's how you can bring it up. You can say, hey, I just want to vent about how I'm feeling right now. Is that okay with you? Is it all right if I just vent for a little bit and talk about what's happening? I think as well, we can consider when you've got a bigger family or you've got a few people to go to, really asking yourself, who do I feel close to? Who do I feel comfortable with? And it might not be a parent. Maybe it's a grandparent. Maybe you've got a really good relationship with a cousin that you want to give them a call and chat to. But I would say having an idea of what you want and who you're closest to can be some really good guiding factors to help you start that conversation.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Leah, if young people feel they are being misunderstood or feel their story is being interpreted wrong, how do you suggest they be able to have their voices heard and get their message across to mental health services?
I think this is something really common that happens with young people. And I think as well, it comes from this misconception that all mental health services that are designed for young people will suit every young person. So I think it's about understanding, first of all, that not every service is going to be for you. Headspace might not be for you, but another one like BISA might work better for you. So I think it's about first off understanding that. After that, kind of, if you go to one service and you don't feel like you fit in, or the person you're seeing, you don't feel like they're communicating with you really well, you can bring it up to someone else who else is in the organization, or sometimes even getting like a guiding carer almost to support you on that journey. Sometimes getting a teacher to help speak on your behalf. If you think the service works for you, but the person you're seeing isn't working for you necessarily, and you think there's someone better who might be there to offer you a service, you can get almost like your teachers or your parents, your neighbors, like kind of all these people we touched on before, to help you approach that situation and almost find someone new that you can speak to. And then if it doesn't work, then you can always reach out to another service, and just, as I said before, look around at your resources, and there will be one fit for you eventually. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 times to get through it, but there is someone at the end of the day who you will mesh with. There's thousands of people in the profession, and there's going to be someone who's there to help you and make you feel like your voice is heard. It's really important for your voice to be heard, and that's the whole point of it.
Thank you.
Our next question's for Kurt. How do I support my friend through their lockdown struggles, especially when I might be struggling myself?
Yeah, so I've thought about this recently as well with the Are You OK Day as well. And it's about, I think, firstly, knowing your capacity to support someone. It's okay to not be able to support someone at that time, because the last thing you want to do is be going through a lot of things yourself and have someone kind of put some more things on you that make you feel great, and then you may not give them the best response they were looking for, and then that can kind of impact the friendship a little. So firstly, you have to recognize how capable you are of providing support in that moment, and tell yourself it's okay to say to them, hey, at the moment, I'm just not up to speaking. Can I try you again tomorrow? Or something like that. Still telling them that you're there for them. That's very important. It's not saying, no, I just can't chat. It's just saying, hey, now's just not the best time for me, but I'm still here and I want to. And then when you are feeling okay and happy to kind of support someone, let them know. It's really easy to just think they know. It's really easy to say, yeah, we're best friends. They should know I'm here to chat. But often when people are experiencing things and they do want to chat to someone, they're not likely to chat to someone because they don't know who to chat to. They've never been told, hey, I'm here for you. Again, even if that's your best friend. So literally just saying to them, hey, do you need a chat? Or I'm here to chat when you need. That may not be all the time, but if it's not that time, I'll be here to help another time. So really just letting them know that you are there. And again, when you're saying that, making sure that you really are there for them. So not just saying it, but saying it and meaning it is really important for a person to just let them know that, hey, I can see. And sometimes you can say things like this. You can say, hey, I've noticed you've been a bit off lately. Is there anything I can help with? And that way they might say, no, I'm sweet, but at least they know that you've asked. They know that you're there for them. And like I said, it's all about firstly knowing in yourself that you can support them and that it's okay to not feel up to supporting someone else at that time. But then when you are ready, letting them know. Letting them know that you're there, letting them know that you will listen. Again, that's really important, that you will listen. You're not just kind of saying it as a throwaway line. You're really there because obviously you care for the person. And yeah, if you notice that they're unlikely to chat about it, you can kind of mention it to them, just saying something like I said before, hey, I noticed you've just been a bit off. It's not confrontational. It's just saying, hey, this is what I've noticed. Is everything okay? Again, it's up to them how they answer it, but at least they acknowledge that, you know, you have been paying attention. You do actually know this person. And if there is something off, they're likely to say, actually, yeah, there has been. Can we chat about it? So just really being there for them when you can. You don't always have to be, but when you are there for them, make sure you listen. If they are a bit apprehensive to chat about things, that's fine. It's their choice, but at least they know that you are there for them when needed.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. And young people can always call Shanae and myself back as well on 96265312. We can offer support as well by giving you some information or advice around certain things. But if we're unable to help you as well, we'll find someone who can, maybe like Headspace.
The next question is for Beck. I'm feeling different in lockdown, less social, etc. How do I communicate what I need to those around me?
Yeah, for sure. I think that can be a really difficult one. And especially when we're feeling less social and if we're feeling more really big feelings, maybe we're feeling super anxious or quite low, our ability to communicate can really be impacted by that and the way that we're feeling. And I think that the very first step is to figure out what it is that you need, what your needs are. Because I think sometimes it can be really overwhelming when you're feeling intense and you know you just need help. But when you go to somebody and you say, I need some help, and they're not quite sure how to help you, that can be really intimidating both for that person and for yourself, because you're not quite sure what it is that you want from them. So I would say that the very first thing would be figuring out what you want. And if that's, I'm feeling less social, but I still want to feel connected. Maybe that's what you're asking people for. You're saying, I'm not up for a daily FaceTime, but I'd love a text every now and then. I'd love to just have a quick chat, or let's play Minecraft and chat together. Something that's maybe a little bit less intensive than, family Zoom calls every night or something like that. Or maybe what you're feeling is overwhelmed and you actually need a little bit of space. And even in this lockdown, for some people, it's quite isolating. And for others who might have a really big family, you might feel actually quite overwhelmed having so many people in the house all the time. And maybe you are feeling less social and you need some space. And so recognizing that in yourself, that you need some space, can be a really good way to go about communicating that. I always find that when you're communicating with other people, the best way to go about it is to express yourself, how you're feeling and what you need, rather than telling somebody what to do. So rather than telling your mum and dad, get out, I've had enough of you, you're in my face, maybe it would be a little bit better to say to them, I'm actually feeling really overwhelmed. I'm struggling to be social at the moment, and I'd really like, some time to myself every night between this time and this time where I could just sit in some peace and quiet. So I'd say figuring out what it is that you want, what it is that you need, and then communicating it by focusing on how you're feeling and what those needs are to other people.
Great, thank you. The next question that we have is directed at all three panelists. So I'll start with you, Leah. What strategies are you using to look after yourself at the moment?
So I guess I'm touching on a bit more of what I said a bit earlier and what Kurt said as well. For me, it would definitely be setting boundaries between my friends and I. I think this has become even more important in lockdown. A lot of us are feeling stronger emotions than we usually would. And I think for me, being able to say, hey, I can't chat right now, but I want to talk about it later, has been really important to me. It's about being able to give how much I can to others while still maintaining my own cup, making sure that it's still full with what I need to fulfill myself. Another thing that I found almost contradictory to what Beck said, but disconnecting completely, obviously to a healthy extent, because that can be as bad as doing either or, but turning off my phone and just putting my head in a book all day. Like, I didn't read for years, and I've just locked down, I've become a book nerd again. So yeah, just almost disconnecting, turning off social media and being like, I've gone MIA today. You really can't contact me unless it's an emergency. So yeah, that's definitely two things that I've done to maintain like a healthy mindset within this lockdown.
Thank you. Kurt, what are you doing? What are your strategies during this time?
Yeah, so I have a few different strategies. One, especially with the kind of working from home thing, I love to get outside, go for a walk or a run after work, because it's important to have a bit of separation from the house, from work and whatnot. So that's one thing I've been doing. I've been going kicking the footy or soccer ball with my housemate, because I love footy. I was very upset the season was cut short, so still doing something that I enjoy like that. The other thing as well is I've taking it easy on myself, kind of what we've all said before, just telling myself that, hey, it's an unprecedented time, really. And I remember seeing something that was like, 2021 was meant to be the bounce back year after last year. And yet it's kind of still been the same. So just reminding myself that, hey, this is a global pandemic. We're not meant to know how to act. It's okay to take it slow. Even recently, work was becoming a little bit stressful, so I took a day off. And that's something I encourage people, because if you're working from home or doing school from home, you almost feel like you have no excuse. But if you weren't going to feel up to going to school or work that day, then it's kind of the same thing. You should take the day off. So it's good to take a day just to recharge, just to have a sleep in. That's something I love doing personally. Recharge for the day and then just come back the next day with a different mindset, because it can be hard to recognize your own kind of where you're at. But definitely when you do realize that you're just at a point you need a little bit of a break, take that break. Take it like you normally would, and just, again, remind yourself it's okay to do that. So that's something I've been big on lately. And the other thing I've taken up was colouring in. That's just something I've randomly taken up the past few months. Bought a colouring book, some textures, and that just takes up time in a good way. I'm just focused on staying inside the lines, which isn't always easy, but it's good fun and it's nice and relaxing. So they're the kind of things I've been doing just to keep myself going during this time, because it's not always easy. The other thing I did want to say was chatting to my friends. I've been calling them. So when I'm on those walks, I like to call them, because call's a bit different to kind of just texting or sending that message on Facebook. Having an actual conversation with someone is the other thing I've enjoyed doing lately.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Beck, what are the strategies you're using to look after yourself at the moment?
Yeah, I think something that, I guess, touching on what Kurt said as well, that's been really helpful for me has been regularly checking in with myself. I think recently, we've been in lockdown for so long, it can be so easy for the days to blur into each other, and, things just feel really mundane and like they're continuing and nothing's changing, but how we feel is constantly changing. And so for me, that's meant taking a moment a day at the end of my workday, usually, to check in with myself about how am I going and what do I need right now? Because I've noticed as well that, in and out of lockdown, over COVID, what I've needed in terms of self-care has changed a lot. So before, I was doing a lot of painting, and recently I was like, that's not quite cutting it for me anymore. What am I going to do now? And I realized that a lot of those kind of really negative thoughts were going around in my head quite a lot. And so I thought, you know what, let's put some things together. And I've been doing a lot of journaling, which is something that I recommend for a lot of the young people that I work with, just to put that muddle in your head, that tangled Christmas lights up there, and kind of work it out into something manageable. So journaling's been a really big one for me, so I can kind of get clear on what I need. And honestly, video games. I've been playing a lot of Mario Party with some friends. I've gotten back into Animal Crossing, playing some Dragon Age the other day. I find it's really good. I think sometimes it brings a sense of accomplishment. You kind of tick that quest off. You do that thing that you needed to do, and you can feel good about yourself, even if it's just the game that you're playing. So those would be my main things that I'm using to keep me going at the moment. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you to our three panelists, Leah, Kurt and Beck, for answering all our questions. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to join us today.
Lastly, we just want to share with you some support services that you can contact if you or someone that you know needs emergency help or support. You can contact one of these numbers on the slide that I've provided. And I would also like to say a big thank you to the panelists for answering all the questions, and for all the young people that will be listening to this video.
And just lastly, a big thank you to Ruth from Headspace as well for doing all the IT support behind the scenes.
Yes, thank you so
much. We hope everyone, all the young people watching this video, will enjoy it. And if you do need any more support, you can either ring Back or Headspace.